Hold on. Let me do the recording stuff first.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Memorialize it. All right, so Melissa has hit the record button on this. This is the CSS Workforce Executive Committee meeting. It is January 14th. This is a reschedule from the January 7th meeting. Present on the board, we have Tim Driscoll, Ernie Hartman, Jack Wheeler, James Griffin, Judy McKinney-Cherry. That is 5 members present, so that is quorum. From staff, there's myself, Dan Porter, Melissa Johnson, and Phyllis Ballier. So with that all said, Jack, I will hand the meeting to you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Call the meeting to order. And obviously conflict of interest, as always, if something comes up, please note it if you have a conflict. Meeting minutes. So what do we need to do with this, Dan?
So really, this is just an acknowledgement. So with timing and stuff of the last meetings, there's 2 things that were really approved by the board. So it's really, there's not a whole lot to do today other than just for internal tracking purposes. It's easier for Melissa and the staff if we kind of see it on the various minutes so that we can track and make sure there are no gaps. So there's really not a whole lot to do unless you want to have additional conversation on those minutes or on the November budget.
Okay, yeah. Nothing on my end. Anything on the rest of you folks? I mean, we already discussed it.
No comments here.
Okay. All right. So I guess an acknowledgement on the first 2 items, and then moving along to the ETPL updates.
Yep. So we have 2 ETPL updates that we've received. They both are worth having some conversation on. So the first one is the Corning Community Colleges. They've asked to have their accounting career pathway put on our demand occupation list. Couple of things here. One, they are a SUNY school, part of the state system, so it would almost be unheard of for us not to put this on our eligible training provider list. So it's the same way with when the SUNY changes their tuition rates or anything like that. It's nigh near impossible for us to say no because they're a state agency. That being said, the interesting parts about this is this kind of sort of begins to line up with some of our demand occupation changes, but because this is not really it doesn't seem to lead to any degrees. It's just kind of a career pathway within a broader, it's kind of just like a little grouping of classes. It doesn't fit on our demand occupation list as a fundable occupation as we kind of written our demand occupation list and envisioned it. So I've got to have some more conversations with Corning. I'm not sure if they put this on there. Both Corning and BOCES, both training providers, have a long history of putting things on the demand occupation list for other grants that they may receive or for trainings that they do in Pennsylvania. In which case, because of the terms of either the Pennsylvania issues or the contract issues, it's beneficial for them to have it on their local ETPL list. So I have to check with Jeannie at the college and find out what they plan to do with this. So by approving it, if you approve it, it goes on our demand occupation list, but is not immediately added to our fundable training activities within our area. I don't know, does that make sense to folks, or have I muddied the waters even worse?
I mean, to me, it makes sense, but I guess functionally, what do you think the demand for this is going to be?
Well, I mean, the colleges put it together, so I'm assuming they've got some sort of demand which is spurring their them actually creating this pathway. It does kind of line up for some of the accounting and bookkeeping demand occupations that we have. I mean, we can go in as staff and look at the, so on our demand list, I think was it level tier 2, Phyllis, we have bookkeeping or something like that. Anyways, but when you look at the actual degree category, it actually calls for an associate's degree or higher types of training. I mean, theoretically, we could go in and change our demand occupation to intentionally include this training towards that, and kind of play around a little bit with that. Really, there's no harm, no foul in improving it and putting it on our eligible training provider list, other than if there are people out there who want to take this training and have it funded under our WIOA demand, our demand list. There could be a little bit of stuff there, which is really the only downfall of doing it. But we've rarely ever had those problems in the past. And I guess what I'm thinking is I could have the conversation with the college and find out what their purpose was for putting this on, and see if they're visioning it lining up with our demand occupation list. Then I can explore and kind of tell them, well, if you tweaked this or tweaked that, or just clarified this verbiage, then it would, or come back to you all and say, what they've got here together is for all intents and purposes a training which would blah, 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 and kind of explain it out. And then we could make it eligible that way. I just don't want to delay anything that the college has going on.
Are you recommending approval of this?
I would be recommending approval on it, because it's a state agency, we can't really say no, but I'm just kind of giving you the background that it's not going to mean that we're going to immediately start, and Ernie's team is not immediately going to start seeing people funnel through this until we work through and clarify a few questions or whatever.
Then I move to approve.
I'll second it.
All right, motion and second. I guess the only other comment I would have would be to what you just said, Dan, is if you think we have the internal controls with things not perfectly settled at the moment, to be able to, not have this, not have a run on this, without additional conversation, then I have no issue.
Yeah. The internal control is going to be that it's not immediately listed as a yes, that you can get money from staff. So the internal control is not going to allow the flow unfettered. It's going to keep it stopped until we figure out if we can open it up or not.
Okay.
So I don't see really any risk other than maybe some modest confusion. But historically, when we've done these types of things, we've had very few issues. So the risk is very low.
Any other comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I abstain.
Okay. One abstention.
We have one more ETPL, which is the New York Beauty and Barber Academy. They have changed some of their design, and they've asked for it to be on the ETPL list. As you'll recall, we put out a moratorium and then stopped funding cosmetology and these types of programs. So approving it would basically just say, yeah, and it acknowledged that it is a viable training program, but it's not going to allow, we're still not going to be funding them. So this is one of those things where other areas, if somebody from Tioga County or Ithaca County, not Ithaca County, Tompkins County, sorry about that. Yeah. From Tioga or Tompkins County wants to use them as a training provider, having this on our ETPL opens up and makes that allowable for them. My recommendation would be to still approve this, knowing full well that our internal moratorium is not going to be affected by us adding this to the ETPL.
Okay. Same kind of concept in general.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? If not, can I get a motion, please?
I can move it.
Okay. Motion.
Second.
Second. Okay. Questions, concerns? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
All right. Thank you. So we've got a couple other things here. The last one is or it's not last, but it's the annual 3% 401k contribution. I'd like to save that for last, and then if the board wants to go into an executive to have conversations on it, we'll just ask the staff to leave, and I'll invite them back in at the end afterwards. So youth odes training proposal. So we have been running, we invested quite a bit of staff money into training and getting an odes specialist, an offender workforce development specialist, which is a credential offered jointly between Department of Labor and Department of Corrections. And we have run that program in Chemung County, kind of in tandem with our PTE program, because Chemung County allowed us to use the PTE because so many of their customers on TANF and DSS have prior criminal justice involvement issues. They kind of allowed us to bring in the specialized stuff. So we've been really piling it over there. To date, we've got over 90% success rate. So if you are an offender and you go through this training program, or this I don't want to say the training program, it's really a work career skills, ready, set, work is the name of it. But if you go through this program, and complete it, 90% of those folks with prior work issues land a job, which if you've tried to place anybody who has a prior justice involvement issue, you know that it's very hard to get these folks placed out in the workforce. So it is a tried and true program. I will tell you the state runs it and has not quite, well, probably on par with what we do. It really speaks to the strength of the curriculum and the delivery and so on and so forth. Anyways, long story short, what we'd like to begin exploring is offering this, because we've had some requests from Schuyler County in particular, Steuben County. I think we had one recently of participants, of people who, parole, probation, other human service agencies that would like to put some of their customers into our program. So what we'd like to permission to do, and I don't know if I need I probably do need board approval on this, which is why I'm here. What we'd like to do is what I sent you on the thing is really a one-page summary, and then you can see kind of, well, there's the one-page summary. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to begin rolling out this offender workforce development program to the other two counties. Obviously, Chemung County and their PTE and their TANF programs are not necessarily going to be appropriate funding streams for, Schuyler or Steuben residents. So we kind of have to build a framework on that. So you can see our expectations, building community partnerships, and really co-service management is really kind of what we're shooting for here. We do need to cover our direct program costs. We have to know who we're billing, who we can bill to, and maybe generate some modest net positive revenue. But I will tell you that the price point that we've kind of settled on really does not generate a lot of money. This is not a profit-making opportunity, unless the board wants me to shift focus. But how we visioned it was really to try and get more justice-involved individuals participating and attached to the workforce, and not necessarily to turn it into a huge moneymaker. So in terms of billable structures, obviously the Chemung County residents that the Chemung County DSS confirms participation in, there still would be no cost to them, because we're billing those hours, or we're billing those hours through our PTE and through those existing contracts. Thank you. Through our coffee services delivered via coffee officer, cup of coffee. For Steuben and Schuyler County residents, what we're kind of visioning as a structure is a home agency, and we're not really defining what the home agency is. It could be a probation, it could be it could be a Catholic Charities, it could be any other source or any other grant. It could be, in the case of Steuben County, it could be ProAction. In the case of Schuyler County, it could be Catholic Charities. I guess it could be Catholic Charities too. Anyways, is that the home agency would pay the tuition, and then, because going back to this co-service management structure here, basically allow, if they're willing to help us place these folks and keep these people attached and motivated, they could recoup up to 1/3 of that. So how does that work in practice? So in practice, we would have for the Chemung, not for the Schuyler and for the Steuben County residents, we would ask the home agency to pay $1,500 per participant. All right. That would cover all the books, materials, time, all that fun stuff. So there's not a lot of money there to begin with. And then what we have is we kind of internally identified really the two hard points. One is we have 90% placement rate if they successfully complete. So folks who attend 1 or 2 classes or 1 or 2 sessions, and then we never see them again, well, they don't place generally. And if they do, I don't get a record of it. So if the home agency will support us through the completion of the program. So Chemung County is an example. Their probation department, they stay right on top of these folks, and they ensure compliance, and they ensure that these folks show up to the course and throughout the entire course and stay motivated and blah, 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 blah. So we have very good success rate with them. So in a similar case where, say, Schuyler County probation wanted to put someone and they could partner and figure out how to come up with that $1,500. When their participant completes, then we would refund $250 of that $1,500 tuition. And then for the first, our goal is to place people within 90 days of completion of the program. Actually, 45 is our internal goal. But if the home agency continues this kind of co-service management, co-supporting structure and helps us actually get them placed, once we've placed them, then we could refund an additional $250, so that the total cost per participant would only be about $1,000 per person. And again, that includes everything: books, materials, supplies, supports, the follow-up. Our OD specialist does a lot of one-on-one work outside of class and so on.
So Dan,
Yep.
Hi, Dan. So my question is, the tuition of $1,500, is that coming from the home agency?
It presumably, yes. That's
Okay,
it.
and so where do they get their money from? Is it also coming from the state, or is it coming from donations?
That's why I left home agency open-ended. So for instance, if it's the DSS can pay for their participants through existing funding streams and you know, getting these folks off of the public assistance roles and into a job obviously has some benefits. So presumably there would be some, I know that the Chemung County DSS does it, so I'm assuming that Steuben and Schuyler could as well. In the case of a Catholic Charities, they might write a grant to work with people with previous justice involvement. Corning Community College, for instance, has written some grants around helping folks with previous justice involvement issues. There's quite a few grants out there that could do this. And so that's why I don't really name the home agency,
Okay.
and I don't really name the funding.
Okay.
It could be a self-pay. We had one
Yeah.
person who wanted to self-pay.
Okay. And so the next question is, the $1,000 per person that that CSS Workforce is getting, is that going into a general fund, or is that going back into the line that supports this particular training?
So what would happen would be that $1,000, I mentioned material. So there's workbooks and curriculum pieces and stuff that every participant has to have. So all of those direct billable expenses and costs would come out of this $1,000. In addition to that, all of the staff involvement has to be prorated based on who they're actually working with. So if the 2 or 3 or 4 people in this class are from outside the county, then a prorated percentage of all of the class hours and class preparation time would have to be assigned accordingly. All of the one-on-one career counseling and additional services as part of this program would need to be billed directly. And that's really just out of fairness to Chemung County DSS, because really wouldn't be right to ask them, and it probably not even be legal to ask them to spend their TANF money on participants outside the counties. And so we've got to figure out a way to do that. So once we've paid all those additional staff times, the materials cost, there may be some money. If we do the entire lift ourselves, and we get to quote unquote keep the full $1,500, then we probably maybe make $200 or $300 a person, $400 a person. At the $1,000, you know, depending on how hard they are to work with, we will break even to maybe make $100. It's not a huge venture, but it's really paying the costs. So all the prorated costs on, and Department of Labor is going to be real big on this, all the prorated costs of rent and all that fun stuff.
So Dan, to one of Judy's earlier questions, I mean, I can see, where DSS might be able to free up some funding for this. What do you think the practical, absent grants, which, I mean, I know grants can come and some are out there, but what do you think the practical take rate or participation rate would be for like Steuben or a Schuyler at this point?
I would say, given Schuyler County size, if there were a grant out there, if there was somebody who could pay to put people through, I would see them a very high uptake. But high for them could be 10, 12, 15 people over the course of, a 6-month period. Realistically, with DSS, and we're thinking in Schuyler County, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 2 to 3 a year total. Steuben County, a much bigger budget. Maybe 10, out of the DSS budget. I particularly immediately, because I know that the DSSs have to put together, plans on how they spend their TANF money and stuff. So this is obviously not built into anybody's plans. Low volume, in short. Really what we're trying to do is just kind of crack this egg open and see if we can get some flow from the other counties.
Yeah. Dan, I apologize. It's obviously early morning and I haven't gotten through my first cup of coffee yet. So can you just go over again? I think I understand the Schuyler Steuben part, but I missed the part about the Chemung County residents.
Okay, how they get
no cost, yeah, because it still costs us to do it.
Yeah, it's not that they get it for no cost. They already have an established funding stream. So that is what it is. So right now, if Chemung County DSS refers, we're part of their TANF diversion program. So anybody who signs up for public assistance, they send them over to us, and our PTE program begins working with them, with a goal of them not opening a public, TA or FA account, and a cash public assistance account. So most of the folks from this particular slice of demographics are unemployed. So they are probably either currently on Chemung County DSS rolls already, or they've just been released from prison, and so they aren't. So they come to us. So they allow us, Chemung County DSS allows us, through our Pathways to Employment contract, to build those hours and costs for those participants through that existing channel. That's why it's not that it's no cost. They already have this set up so that anyone that they would refer. So if Chemung County Probation sends us somebody, we send over and we make sure that Chemung County DSS has them on their rolls and registered and enrolled and blah, 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 blah. Then they say, yes, Tom is on the roll. Please feel free, if he wants to participate in the ODS program, to bill his costs through the PTE program. And so that's what we do already.
Okay. And the reason that you're not doing this with Steuben and Schuyler is because there's not a PTE with the DSSS in those two counties. Is that right?
Correct. We do not have an existing structure to build those to the counties. So in Steuben County, for instance, I know that ProAction is they do things, every county has their own design structure and uniqueness. But right now, what we do for PTE for Chemung County is done by ProAction in Steuben County. So if ProAction were to do, and pay for and certify an ODS program and whatnot, they could theoretically do this as well over there. The same with Schuyler, although the cost of going through it probably puts it out of what the DSS would generally be able to afford. And I don't know who does diversion. They may do that in-house in Schuyler. I forget. Phyllis, do you know off the top of your head who does the diversion?
They do it in-house.
It used to be Subro did that before Subro.
Right.
Yeah, they do it in-house in Schuyler.
So here's where I am on this. I'm a huge proponent of reducing recidivism by education. So I think doing this is a no-brainer. I'm just trying to figure out how do you do this so that there's not any reason not to do it, right? So when I look at a tuition cost of $1,500, unless I know for sure there's a stream of money, how do we, the cost of I mean, I've been through this and so I'm sure Jim has too, Griff has, the cost to incarcerate a person is astronomical. And to me, it's a no-brainer to do this. In fact, prison to work has been in every economic developer's list for many, many, many years. I'm just trying to figure out if there's another way for Schuyler and Steuben to be able to do this, because I worry that tuition cost of $1,500 might actually be prohibitive. I don't know that though. That's my concern.
Yeah, I think it's outreach, Judy. I think DSS is, and again, in our county, like Dan said, we do use ProAction for a lot of these types of services. So it's not just the county alone providing it, and really, Dan is spot on. I mean, every county does it way different. They all have the same mission. It's just who provides the service. So, Dan, is there, outreach plans to DSS, ProAction, Catholic Charities, those?
There is. So the game plan will be, and I apologize, I only sent page 1, which was the relevant portion. So what we're developing is a proposal that we want to share with both counties' probation departments, their DSS departments, ProAction, Catholic Charities, any relevant entity. In the case of Schuyler County, we'll probably also go to EOP because I know they offer some services up in Schuyler as well. Basically trying to get to the agents and say, this is what we have. And the cost is really, $1,500 may be scary, but quite honestly, if you're already working with them and you want to continue this co-management and this co-service relationship, you can earn back a third of that. So it'd be only $1,000. And, with a 90% placement rate, it really benefits everybody. And I'm not really. So yes, there is a lot of outreach, and I don't know in this first effort if we'll even get any, quite honestly. But before I wanted to kind of create this and start, and have anyone on the executive committee say, well, CSS is in the program business and they're competing with people unfairly and all that fun stuff. I just wanted to kind of head off any of that path of say, this is what we're doing. In theory, we could probably go after grants ourselves and then offer the ODES program across the 3-county area completely in-house. And we could certainly go down those roads if the board wanted to. I've been hesitant to do that. My MO is not generally to want to do a lot of a lot of competing type of programs. And if there are already other people out there working with, justice involved individuals, I don't want to step on any toes. I'd rather just kind of offer just the employment piece of it, kind of on a fee for service type of basis.
I would agree. I think especially if you, in the other counties put a big push on the outreach. I think, and again, who knows, because I'm familiar with all the DSS funding streams, but I don't know where they are in relation to, the temporary hold or freeze on some of the funding or clawback. So, I don't know what the take rate will be, but I guess I like that approach that, you have a straight line with Chemung, you do your outreach with Steuben and Schuyler and see what you get.
And then the first cut that we were looking at doing this, just so you know, so if the first trial, if you will, is really the 18 to 24-year-old, so young people. So we think, and the reason in that is because so much of what we're going to have to do here is going to still have to be remote, that we think that we stand probably a better chance of targeting, some of these younger individuals. They've got a little stronger digital skills and stuff like that. So there is on the ODES program, there is a specialized curriculum specific to the 18 to 24-year-old. They call it, and you can see it on here, that it's Career University Advancing to the Next Level. It's basically ODES, but that it's been reconfigured and some additional services built in specific to the 18 to 24-year-old population. So our thought would be, and we spent the time to get our staff person credentialed in doing this younger age one as well. So that's really our target, was to say, okay, let's try this on younger people, because we acknowledge that right now we still have to be remote. So can we make this happen with some younger folks and yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
I mean, realistically, the takeoff would be that if the counties wanted to do, DSS contracts with us specifically to do this, we could. But quite honestly, then you get with tight county budgets, then you get in a situation where you put the counties in a position of having to take money away from one funding stream to do another.
I'm good, Dan. Do you need a motion to accept it?
It would really be helpful if I had a motion saying that it was okay for us to do it. I just lost my screen. Would be really helpful, permission to proceed with this billing structure, and see what the results are.
Okay.
Okay.
We have Judy, was that a motion?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I'd like to amend the motion, though, and say that we're going to come back and look at this in 6 months to see if there's been any movement whatsoever. Because I do think it's about outreach, and I think just creating a program that doesn't have the outreach component, I think stops other people from doing a program for the exact same reason. They're going to say, oh, somebody else is doing it. And this is really, really important for our area. So I feel pretty strongly about it. If you're going to do it, do it. Don't put your toe in the water, jump in. Okay? Seriously.
Yep. No, all good with me. Yeah, and I'd like to, I think putting it on the the docket, almost as another service that the other counties can avail themselves with, knowing that you established one with Chemung, I think is a good approach. So we have a motion and second. Any other questions? And Dan, keep it on your radar that in half a year come back and let us know how it's going.
Okay. So in the summertime we'll have, and by then we'll have hopefully, knock on wood, have run this, or at least largely run this first round of the career university for this younger population. But we are going to run this next section, whether it's completely filled with Chemung County or if our outreach is successful and we grab a few from the other counties, we are going to run this. So we'll let folks know, and you can kind of hold our toes to the fire a little bit around outreach. So I mean, everyone on this call are probably in circles to where you should see this from somewhere in the community. So you kind of let us know.
All right. So we have a motion and second. Any other comments, questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, Dan.
So I accidentally closed my screen somehow, and lost my. So give me 1 second while I reopen
business service report.
Okay, business services report. All right. So the business services report. I think we've already presented most of this at the last board meeting, but I will share it with you here momentarily so you can see how we're doing.
Judy, finish your coffee.
Oh. Says design screen 2. There
she is.
All right. So this is our business services report. You can see how we're doing with OJTs and ITAs. This is just what's been written since July 1. So you can see for us. Yeah, all right. I think you guys are seeing mail and stuff like that instead. So I don't know what's going on with my movie.
It's fine. We see it.
So this is you can see how our OJTs are going. We continue to support the growth and expansion of Ward, EL Manufacturing. You've seen them before. TTA in the Hornell area has done a number of OJTs as they kind of been ramping up. I highlighted last time the John Mills Electric. That has been particularly exciting. Finley's Tall Timbers Ohio Logistics has been they've been growing like gangbusters over there. So we've kind of tapped into them. And then a new company that's come on board in the last, I'm going to say 3 to 4 weeks, has been this Mextra. It's a company in Hornell that's growing, and we've really been helping them ramp up to the tune of we've written 3 and we've got at least 2 more in the queue with them growing as well. So we've really been able to find places that are growing and tapping in. And again, I like to see things like this DW1. Those are dislocated workers. So I don't like to see dislocated workers. I like to see expenditures in that funding stream, because that's the one that we'll be able to replenish when and if, you know, Washington does send money our way. Customized trainings, you can see. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut someone off.
No, sorry, Dan. That extra, I'm not familiar. What are they, or for Dan or Griff?
Yeah, I'd let Griff talk about what they do.
Extra is a company that was formed out of some people in Alfred. They're down in Hornell in the former TTA building, and they do a ceramic. They make ceramic spools and refurbish them for the wire manufacturers. The spools are the ceramic thing that with ridges in it that determine the size of wire when they're making it. It's a pretty specialized business, and they have expanded into actually making the spools now. We own the building. We sold it to them on a contract, and the contract says that they have to maintain their employment every year for us to forgive their mortgage payments. So we're real tight with them. I'm not sure what their employment is right now. I was kind of surprised to see these 3. I really didn't know about those, but they're good people, and we hope they can make it. It's a difficult business, and they got a big building to operate and maintain.
Okay, thanks. No, just curiosity on my end. So thank you.
Sure.
They feel to me, when I'm interacting with them, they feel like kind of a late stage startup, somebody who's kind of launching. They were a startup up in the incubator, I think, for a couple of years. So Nancy's incubator there in Alfred, Nancy Kirby's incubator in Alfred, and then they launched out into the bigger space.
They've been a late stage startup for a long time.
All right, well, that's just my gut interacting with them, and I knew they were a higher end ceramic type of product. So, but they've been growing. I will say their pay scale is, quite honestly, better than Alstom's as far as starting wages for, you know, the regular floor workers. So it's been a nice. And as you can see, it's different amounts. So they actually have very detailed training plans built within each of these OJTs. So it's not a. Sometimes you run into companies where they already have a prefab. You know, this is it, and so you see a lot of very similar funded or dollar amount contracts. It's really been customized by. They've done a very good job of really using OJT training the way, quite honestly, I think that it should be used. So kudos to them. Customized training, you can see a lot of stuff here. We're starting to hit some smaller companies, the Peters Supplies, the Piper Insurance, we're even starting to get into, Fagan Engineers is coming on board. So we're hitting a lot of companies. This is really an avenue that I would love to see more work in, and more work meaning more employers taking advantage of this. COVID is, if nothing else, COVID has kind of changed how companies do business, and I think that companies they need a more flexible workforce, and which is often going to mean they need to train them. And I think the customized trainings can be a way to really help them relaunch or stay competitive, or maybe even open some new markets. and I'm going to do some more push on this, and I want to do some specific outreach around customized trainings. And so Jim, Judy, you guys will be on a queue. I want to have a conversation with all of our IDAs and economic development and whatnot entities across the 3 counties. Talk about this a little bit more, make sure you guys understand it, because this is really an avenue that I don't know why more employers don't use this more. Yeah, so watch for it. This is an area that we want to push some growth on. We did a big one here, ID booth for $35,000. They are slowly rolling this out. They've had some hiccups with COVID delays and whatnot, but they are on target to expend out. It's been a massive, this is a massive reconfiguration of how they do business. So we're staying on top of them. Corning IDM, we did the $10,000. We lost it briefly, but then they came back, and so we reconfigured our contract again with them. So we still will be helping Corning IDM. It's just a different timeline. So that's the business services report.
Okay. Any questions? You'd like a motion to accept, Dan?
It's basically the same one that was at the board, but yes, it would be good. Oh, no, it wasn't. I forgot. It was just an update from them. So yes, a motion to accept so that we can share it with the board as well.
I move we accept it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So we have 2 procurements on the agenda, which is really why we needed to have this, because we got to get moving on a couple of these. One is the Elmira Career Center cleaning services. The other is for some video editing services. So this is the summary sheet for the procurement for the cleaning services. We did a 3-year. If you want to see the structure, this is the scope of work. We did it room by room, what is needed throughout the entire facility. It is a 3-year bid. And we asked for monthly costs in each of the 3 years, so 21 to 2 and so on and so forth. Because what we found in the past was when we did one bid price for 3 years, it's a lot cheaper if we do it this way, because people kind of will give you the really good costs on the front end. And anyways, so we had SKJ Facilities offer a bid. You can see total monthly cost for this year would be $54, $62, and $6,600. Carpet cleanings on a as needed per basis. Vendor number 2 was capabilities. They came in noticeably higher. And then we reached out. There were a total of 5 services we reached out to multiple times. We were only able to get quotes from 2 of them. I don't know if the COVID cleaning guidelines and things have sort of been the herd, if you will. But normally we would get ample quotes on cleaning service contracts. We were only able to get 2. So based upon this bid, staff are recommending that we go with SKJ Facilities Management and enter into that contract.
Okay.
So move.
Motion?
Second.
Okay. Any questions? What's the out on that, Dan? I mean, I completely agree on bidding. For multiple years, obviously you always get the better price doing that. But what's the termination in case, performance is not where it needs to be?
We didn't actually put it in the quote that we did, but our usual is 30 days with notice.
Okay.
So that's our normal. I was just looking to see if I included it in there, but I didn't include it in what was sent out.
Yeah, pretty standard. As long as we have an out. So
yeah, we do.
All right.
And then the other procurement. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't close that one up. I apologize.
Do you want to vote? Yeah, you want to vote on that one? Okay. We have motion and second. And any other questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The other is for some video editing services. So one of the things that many of the things that we've been doing in this COVID have been virtual and remote and so on. And we have been playing with, and if you watch our YouTube channels at the agency, or even some of our social media, you'll see video snippets and things like that. And quite honestly, you need to have someone who knows what they're doing to make those look good. We did a few early on of our own, and they were good for starting points. But then we've used some professionals, and it is very clear on the computer monitor, on the screen, whatever, what's been done professionally and what's been done, by our very dedicated but not professional videographer team. So what we put out is a bid for some video editing services. So one of the things that we've been doing is our Meet the Employers, and they've actually taken off pretty well. And also the employer spotlight videos. So these are both engagements really on the business services. It's part of our recruitment. It's part of helping businesses raise their visibility and recruitment efforts. So the Meet the Employers, we do 8 times a month right now, a couple times every single week. It's really employers that are looking to hire right now. This is what we want. You see them if you do any of the social media, LinkedIn stuff that we do, even our webpage. You see a lot of this out there. Where this is a big thing for us. This is employers really have been doing this and really have found these to be useful. The other one we have is employer spotlight videos, and this is something bigger. So this is going to be, and some of you, so Griff, I know you were around, Ernie, you were around, some of the other folks on the team, Tim, you were around. Remember back in the days, we were working with WETM, and we were highlighting certain industry sectors, and ETM would go in and we would do video on them. So we would do a thing on manufacturing, and we would go to local manufacturers, and we would kind of give people a video snapshot on the internal workings of manufacturing today versus the dirty whatever legacy memory, whatever you want to call it, of what manufacturing is, and was really a long-term push to introduce almost career pathways or industry sectors or employers that were long-term hiring. So a Corning, a big company that needs people over a longer term and wants to talk about their industry, or a Hardinge, or in the case of Alstom, it could be an Alstom, someone who wants to really highlight themselves, and we can position it within an industry sector or however. What we really want to do here is we want to restart that up and begin really pushing that and have it in a format that can be usable and professional on, again, our YouTube channels, our social media, our website. We want to be able to kind of share these with school districts, the CDCs, Career Development Councils, BOCES, youth centers, anybody. But really, how do we? It's part of that effort, and so the audience is not just person sitting with their employment counselor. It's really the world, if you will. Could even use it, quite honestly, we could do one on the trades and really talk about how that process works and develop that out as well. So anyway, so this is what we were looking at. What we looked for was cost per pricing on each of those 2 video styles. And so that was the structure. In terms of procurement, we got a Ramsdell Video Productions quoting us, again, per price. And you can see $600 for Meet the Employer, $300 for Employer Spotlight was their structure. They maintained that throughout their 3 years. Sharkey Designs was, that's a small startup. They came in much more competitive. We did get a third one, which is a Luxurium. But quite honestly, They were, their bid was, I don't know how they bid on projects, but I couldn't understand what they gave us. And it came in after about 6.5 hours after the deadline. So I'm not sure what their line of thinking was, but that was our third. And then we did hear from a fourth, which was Cregent Marketing. And for some reason, they chose not to submit a bid at this time. So I'm not sure. I didn't follow up with them, quite honestly. But our recommendation from the staff would be to work with Sharkey Designs. While they're not the absolute cheapest, because as you can see on here, there's this $25 an hour from Luxurium, but with a minimum of 4 hours of work for 30 seconds of video production, I'm not sure how that will even work with a Meet the Employer 30-minute session. I mean, I can't imagine the cost on that, and let alone if it runs over to 45 minutes or something. It was crazy. They obviously didn't read the procurement, and then they sent it in late. So I really kind of discounted the low priced vendor here, because I think with them, my instincts, just based on what they give us, yeah, they're cheaper, but I'm not sure what I'm buying. And then the Sharkey Designs, of the two remaining really what I consider viable bids, was, well, 75, 25% of the cost. So our staff suggestion would be to do an agreement with Sharkey Designs. Again, standard 30-day out.
Okay. Questions, concerns?
So all of the outreach here is, if you remember at the last meeting, I talked about on the board line item that we had about $10,000 left in our outreach budget line. So that 10,000, if we do the agreement, is where these costs would ultimately get billed to. So this effort here will help us spend down that budget line item.
Okay.
As long as you have a 30-day out, because you're really starting, you're taking a chance with a brand new company, so you have to have that.
Yeah. This is our toe in the water. We've used Sharkey Designs on they were actually able to help us. They're a small startup, again, out of Nancy's incubator. They came out of the one, not the Alfred one, but the one over in Painted Post. We've used them for a couple of other donut shells and things, and they've been very responsive. But it's a startup, so who knows where they'll go in time.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? If not, could we get a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Motion.
I'll second.
Second. Okay. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I thought everyone
Carried.
froze there.
I thought I lost connection again.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on, Dan. Procurement. No, those are both the procurements. Any other items? We got to go back to the 401k.
Yep. So I will share this. I'll try and blow it up. Can you see that? It's small on the screen here. If not, I'll see if I can open it up a little bit better here. Hold on.
It's
So as you
pretty
just,
small.
I can talk about it a little bit. There we go. So our 401k process has two pieces to it. It has what we call a safe harbor. So every quarter, 3% of staff wages go in as a safe harbor. So they just go in automatically. It has what the 401k world defines as what they call profit sharing. Obviously, we don't have profit in our world, but that's just their term, not mine. So the profit sharing is at the end of every calendar year, if you've worked enough hours, if you're still employed on December 31st, yada, 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 you could be potentially open to receive profit sharing as a one-time annual dispensation up to 3% by the board. If you remember, well, many, many moons ago, this was really kind of, we sort of brought it up back then in the old day, it wasn't exec, it was the old structure resource, for those who remember structure committee. Structure resource, which was kind of the predecessor to exec, would sort of approve it, and it sort of went on automatically. A few years ago, our friends at the Department of Labor said, no, 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 no. This one requires a special pullout and a recognition by the full board on this expenditure. Why? I don't know, but they just did. So realistically, as a board and as an exec committee, you have a kind of decision to make. We can, and it has to be in full percentage increments, so it can't be like 1.5. You can choose to either put in 0% as a one-time profit share, 1%, 2%, or 3% profit sharing. I will tell you, in all years except for one, the board has done 3%. In the 1 year that they didn't do 3%, they did 0%. That was that first year when we had no idea how much money we were spending, and it would have cost us a lot of money, and money was tight, and the board went with 0% that year, which quite honestly I thought was the right approach at that time. But anyways, so this is really what you would need to do. As you can see, if the board did 0%, obviously it's $0. 1% would be about a $6,600 total agency contribution. 13.2, 19.2, the 1, 2, 3%. And there's also the breakout by program area. So for instance, WIOA will be paying, if you do 1%, WIOA would be kicking in 5,200 of it, PTE another 1,200, and then S3 would put in a small amount, and an apprenticeship would put a small amount. Those are examples of, Judy, where I was talking about we have to spread staff costs, and that's what that 1,000 would go for. 1,000, we have to break out by specific program areas. A piece of that 1,000 would ultimately go into this if it were utilized that way. Anyway, so that's really where you're at. I don't know if this is something you want. My thought would be that all the staff on the call could certainly leave the call. You could have, we could make a motion, go to exec, staff could leave. You guys could talk amongst yourselves. Jack, you could text me, and then we could join back in afterwards, or you can, if you're really talking about, there's really not for, there's nobody's names attached or anything like that. If you felt comfortable doing it out of exec, you could do it out of exec, whichever way you as a board wanted to approach.
Anyone have any strong feelings? I personally feel, unless we want to get into details, it's to me it's more of a high level. You're not talking individual employees. It's kind of a high level budget discussion and policy discussion. So I'm comfortable out of exec unless anyone wants to go in exec, which is perfectly fine. I'm
comfortable.
Okay.
I am too.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So to me, it makes sense. From a budget standpoint, it seems like we can float it. It's not, the time that we're, it's not great financial times, but it's also not as dire as, the times where we haven't had that option. So my opinion is personally to stick with it, but what's the thought of the rest?
I think it's appropriate, and I would make a motion.
Yeah, I agree with Griff, and I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. Questions, concerns on anyone else's part?
My audio blipped out for a minute. What? 0, 1, 2, or 3%? I didn't catch that. I'm sorry, Jim.
They said it was for everybody but you.
Yeah.
No. The motion was the entire 3%. Yes.
Judy, is that what you're understanding as well?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Fine.
Questions, concerns from the rest? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Just so you know, mechanics wise, this will, because of our GOL friends, this will go to the full board as a special pullout from this meeting, just so everyone's aware.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I think that's everything on the agenda from my end, Jack. So unless you have any order.
I have nothing. Does any other committee member have anything to bring up?
Nope.
If not, we get a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thanks very much.
Yep, thank you.
All right, take care, everyone.
Bye.